The air in the small frontier town was dry enough to crack lips. Dust clung to boots and hats as men crowded the square, the scent of horses mixing with sweat and whiskey. The wooden platform creaked under the weight of the auctioneer, his voice sharp, practiced, without pity. Beside him stood a woman. Shoulders pulled in tight, hair cut short and uneven, eyes locked on the ground. A long scar traced down her cheek, pale against sunburned skin. The crowd shifted, whispering, some smirking, others spitting. "Next lot, damaged goods," the auctioneer announced, smacking his cane against the rail. "Strong back, can work a ranch, though the face," he gestured crudely toward her cheek, "ain't much to look at. Who'll give me $1? The woman's breath caught. She didn't look up. The murmurs rolled heavier now, laughter, a few insults, a handful of coins jingling in pockets but no hands raised. $1. Pennies, even, the auctioneer barked. "Come now, she's sound enough. Who bids?" Silence. A boy in the back shouted, "She'll scare the calves dead." The laughter that followed cut sharp through the hot air. The woman flinched once, then held still, jaw tight. From the edge of the square, a man shifted his weight. Wide shoulders, sun-bleached hat pulled low, coat dusted from miles on the trail. He hadn't spoken all morning, just stood apart, arms crossed, watching. His name was Daniel Reed, a rancher known mostly for silence and for the land he worked alone since his family died one hard winter. The auctioneer's voice rang again, desperate now. "Pennies, gentlemen. Or shall I knock her down to the tanner for scraps?" The woman closed her eyes. Daniel stepped forward. His boots hit the boards heavy, the sound cutting the laughter. The crowd turned as one. "I'll take her," Daniel said, his tone flat. The auctioneer blinked. "For how much?" Daniel reached inside his coat, pulled out a folded deed, and held it high. His words came quiet, but each syllable landed like a hammer. "For my whole farm." The square went still. Even the horses shifted uneasy. The scarred woman lifted her eyes for the first time. She searched his face, trying to read if he was mocking like the others. But he wasn't smiling. The auctioneer stammered, "Your farm." Daniel gave a single nod. "Every acre." Whispers rippled through the crowd. "Madness," some hissed. "Charity," others said. A few only stared at the woman, then at him, waiting for what came next. The woman's hands trembled against the rope tied at her wrists. For the first time all day, she dared to imagine she might leave this square alive. The deed changed hands before the crowd could settle. The auctioneer tucked the paper into his vest with a look caught between disbelief and hunger. "Sold," he declared, though his voice lacked its usual triumph. Daniel stepped onto the platform, cut the rope at the woman's wrists with his own knife, and handed the blade back to his belt. He didn't touch her arm. He didn't speak. He simply tipped his hat once and turned toward the street. She followed, steps uncertain, until they were swallowed by the murmurs of the square. "Madman," one rancher muttered. "Wasting land on scarred scraps." "Heard he lost his mind with his family," another whispered. "Or maybe he sees something in her," an older woman said, low, but not low enough. The voices clung to her as they walked. She kept her head down, but inside, her chest hammered with questions she couldn't place words to. Why would a man throw away everything for someone marked like her? At the edge of the street, Daniel stopped by the hitching post. He untied his horse, then handed her the reins of another, a smaller mare, thin but sturdy. "You ride?" His voice was rough, quiet. She hesitated, then nodded. "Enough." He gave one short nod, mounted his own horse, and set off west, toward the long road leading out of town. They rode in silence, the sound of hooves steady against the hard earth. The sun sagged low, and shadows stretched across the plains. At dusk, they stopped near a dry creek bed. Daniel lit a small fire, the sparks catching in the wind. He set a pot on the coals, beans simmering slow. The woman sat across, the firelight painting her scar deep red. For the first time since the square, he looked at her straight on. "What's your name?" he asked. She swallowed, voice dry. "Eliza." He nodded once. "Daniel." The fire crackled between them. Neither spoke again for a while. But when the night deepened, and coyotes howled in the distance, Eliza finally whispered, more to herself than him. "You don't even know what they said I did." Daniel stirred the pot, eyes never leaving the flames. His answer came slow, heavy. "I don't care what they said." Her breath hitched. She almost pressed, almost told him the truth of why the scar ran down her face, of what her father had done before selling her off. But fear choked the words. The silence grew thick, not cruel this time, but heavy like something waiting. Then, hoofbeats. Not theirs. Distant, many. Echoing through the canyon. Eliza stiffened. Daniel stood, hand at his rifle. The fire's glow caught on his jaw, his eyes narrowing toward the sound. "Company," he muttered. Eliza's hands clenched around her skirt. She knew those riders. If they had followed from town, the farm wouldn't just be at stake. Her past was chasing her. The hoofbeats grew louder, rolling closer in the night. The hoofbeats grew louder, echoing through the dry canyon walls until the fire itself seemed to shiver. Daniel snuffed half the flames with a bootful of dirt, leaving only a glow. He raised his rifle, steady in both hands. Eliza's chest rose quick. She pressed her back against the stone behind her, scar burning hot under the firelight. Four riders broke from the ridge, lanterns swaying. Their faces were shadowed by hats, but their voices carried. "There she is," one called, words sharp with triumph. "The scarred whore the old man sold." Eliza's throat closed. She gripped her knees tight, but the trembling wouldn't stop. Daniel didn't move. His voice, low but cutting, drifted across the dark. "You're trespassing." The lead rider laughed. "That girl belongs to her father until the debt settled. You think your farm deed changes that?" Another spat toward the ground. "She stole before, she'll steal again. We're just here to take back what ain't yours." Eliza's fingernails dug into her palms. Heat flushed her skin. She wanted to shout, to deny, but the words stuck. Because it wasn't all lies. The men dismounted. Spurs jingled, rifles slung low. Daniel didn't raise his gun yet. He stood with a stillness that pressed heavier than shouting. "Go back," he said. "No one's leaving with her." The leader stepped forward, lamp held high. The light struck Eliza's scar, throwing it raw into view. He grinned wide. "Look at her. Marked for life. You think she's worth your whole farm?" The words cut sharper than the desert wind. Eliza stared at the ground, shame dragging her lower. But Daniel's rifle lifted, barrel steady at the man's chest. His voice never shook. "She's worth more than all your land combined." The men froze, the fire crackling between them. Eliza's breath caught, a sound between fear and disbelief. No one, had ever spoken of her that way. The leader's smirk faltered. He spat again, but this time his eyes flicked to the others. "Not worth a bullet tonight. But you can't hide her, rancher. Whole town knows." With that, he mounted, the others following. Lanterns bobbed as they rode back into the black horizon, their threat hanging heavier than gunpowder smoke. When the hoofbeats faded, Daniel lowered the rifle. His chest rose slow, but his eyes stayed sharp on the dark. Eliza couldn't stop staring. Finally, she whispered, almost broken, "They're not wrong. I did steal." Daniel turned, eyes catching hers. He said nothing, just waited. Eliza's voice cracked. "My father's money. I ran. He sold me for it." She touched the scar on her cheek, fingers trembling. "And this, he gave me before the auction." The silence between them thickened, but it wasn't rejection. It was weight, truth settling like dust after a storm. Daniel stirred the fire back to life. His words came slow, grounded. "You're not the one marked. He is." Eliza's eyes stung. She looked away, because believing him felt dangerous. Above, clouds covered the stars, leaving the night darker still. By dawn they reached Daniel's ranch. The land stretched wide, fences weathered, barn leaning, house plain but sturdy. To Eliza, it looked like freedom and exile at once. Daniel dismounted, tied his horse. Eliza followed, nerves sharp as splinters. Inside, the house smelled of cedar and smoke. A single chair sat by the hearth, a cradle pushed against the wall, empty but carefully made. Eliza's eyes lingered on it, questions rising but left unspoken. Daniel set down his rifle. "You'll be safe here." Safe. The word pressed strange against her chest. Safe was not a thing she'd ever been. By afternoon, word had spread. Neighbors came by, first out of curiosity, then with questions sharp as knives. "You gave your farm for her," one woman demanded, her arms folded. "She's a thief," a man hissed. Her father still owed. "He'll come." Another spat in the dirt. "We don't want trouble near our land." Daniel's jaw tightened. He didn't answer them with words. He just stood in the doorway, arms folded, gaze steady until they left. But whispers carried on the wind, circling the ranch like buzzards. Eliza felt them all, each look, each mutter. That night, as Daniel chopped wood by the barn, she stepped close, voice shaking. "You should have left me. They'll burn this place because of me." He paused mid-swing, the axe heavy in his grip. His chest rose slow, breath clouding in the cold. Then he set the wood aside, eyes on her. "I already lost a family once," he said. "Not again." Eliza's throat tightened. She wanted to ask about the cradle, the empty house, the silence that hung in every room. But before words could form, the smell hit, sharp, wrong. Smoke. They turned as one. Across the pasture, flames licked at the old fence line. Beyond it, shadows moved. Men on horseback, torches raised. Eliza's heart dropped. They came. Daniel grabbed the rifle, jaw set. "Stay inside." But Eliza didn't move. She knew those men wouldn't stop with a fence. And if the town stood against them, Daniel's whole farm would burn before sunrise. The fire climbed higher, the riders shouting. One voice cut louder, familiar, searing. "Send her out. Or we'll take the land with her on it." Eliza froze. It was her father's voice. The flames clawed at the fence line, sparks rising into the night. The riders shouted, circling like wolves, torches high. At their head, a broad man with a thick beard and bitter eyes, Eliza's father. "Bring her out," he roared. "She belongs to me." Daniel stood in the doorway, rifle raised steady. Behind him, Eliza pressed her palms flat against the wood, her heart hammering. Her father's voice carried over the crackle of fire. She stole from her blood. She scarred herself to frame me. She's cursed. You'll lose everything if you keep her. The men muttered agreement, their torches swinging. Smoke bit Eliza's throat. She wanted to sink, to vanish, but Daniel's voice cut through the chaos. She owes you nothing. His words were flat, final. Not her scars. Not her life. The father snarled. You'd give up your land for her. For this ruined thing. Daniel didn't flinch. I already did. A ripple ran through the men. Some lowered their torches, uncertainty flickering. Eliza stepped forward, past Daniel, into the firelight. Her legs shook, but her voice carried. No more lies, Father. You carved this into me. Her fingers brushed the scar. You sold me for coin and whiskey. You call me thief, yet it was you who took everything. The silence after her words was heavier than the smoke. One rider shifted in his saddle, muttering, "She speaks true." Another dropped his torch, the flame hissing into dirt. Her father's face twisted, rage boiling, but the crowd's doubt spread quick. The men muttered, some turning their horses. They hadn't come for truth, they'd come for coin, for fear. Without it, their fire guttered out. Finally, only her father remained, shaking with fury. He swung down from his horse, stumbled forward, hand raised as if to strike. Daniel's rifle barrel stopped him cold. Touch her, and you'll never lift that hand again. The old man's breath rattled. His gaze darted between them. His daughter, scarred but unbroken, and the rancher standing firm. With a curse, he spat at the ground, mounted again, and rode into the dark alone. The pasture stank of smoke and ash. The men were gone. Only silence remained, broken by Eliza's uneven breaths. Daniel lowered the rifle. His hand, rough and calloused, found hers. Not forceful, just steady. Inside, the house was dim. The fire in the hearth had burned low. Eliza's eyes fell once more on the empty cradle by the wall. Daniel's voice was quiet. My boy. Lost him the winter the fever came. His mother too. Eliza's throat tightened. She touched the cradle's edge, wood smooth from years of keeping. Daniel looked at her, eyes raw with something unspoken. House has been empty since. Eliza's fingers trembled against the wood, but this time not from fear. Slowly, she turned to him. It doesn't have to stay empty. The silence stretched, but it was different now, softer, like a place they could rest. Outside, the fence smoldered, but the fire was dying. Inside, for the first time, Eliza felt the heat of a hearth not meant to burn her, but to keep her.